My name is Callie. I'm a physical therapist here at the Power Gym and also in charge of coordinating the wellness series. Today we have Emily Rich presenting on occupational therapy and Parkinson disease. And she's also a Power Move certified therapist. So she's trained in all of our moves and our methods here. So please give a warm welcome to Emily. If you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat. And just a reminder, we can't unmute you. So if you do want to ask a question, you have to unmute yourself. All right, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Emily.
I think everyone is unmuted, Callie. I think we're able to hear them. So maybe if you could just mute yourself, that way if there's background noise. All right, I'll go ahead and get started. So like Callie said, I'm Emily. I'm an occupational therapist at Tucson Medical Center in outpatient therapies, which is a new clinic we just opened this year. And that's me. All right, and so occupational therapy is a discipline that a lot of people have never heard of before, don't know much about. We don't just help people to find jobs. Our goal is we're a rehabilitation discipline that helps people to improve function through participation in meaningful activities. So we use a combination of rehabilitation, or gaining strength, endurance, and mobility, and compensation using adaptive equipment or adaptive techniques. And we address elements of physical, cognitive, or thinking skills, and social emotional skills, which encompass someone's overall well-being. So our motto is we help people to live life to the fullest. Our goals for today are to address fine motor skills, which are tasks requiring use of your hands, daily life activities, productivity or work and volunteerism, leisure and hobby activities, orthostatic hypotension and the symptoms of that and how we can help to manage that, and then cognition or thinking skills. And we're going to be talking about these all in the context of Parkinson's. So first, we're going to look at fine motor skills. Like I mentioned, it's hand coordination and dexterity. So it might be needed for things that's fasteners on your clothes, like zipping or buttoning, tying your shoes, typing, or playing card games, to name a few things. All right, so first off, for dressing, we're going to look at some adaptive strategies. In terms of ways that if this is challenging for you, what are some things you can use as tools? So for buttons, you'll see on those bottom two pictures there, buttons can be challenging. They require a lot of dexterity. And so on the left, that black button hook is something that you can purchase, just on Amazon or otherwise. And you just push the wire through the hole, and then as you pull the button through, it buttons it, and it's fairly easy. So by using that big handle on the button hook, it's a lot easier than using your fingers in isolation. On the right there, though, you'll see a version that you can make yourself. So it's definitely not as large. It's a little bit more awkward to use, but all it is a spoon and then a safety clip that you open up, and you just make it into a circle, and then you just tape that to a spoon or some other object that then you can hold to thread it through. So that's fairly simple to try on your own and see what you think if you wanted to do that before you purchase something. On the top picture, you'll see an option for no-tie shoelaces. The brand in that picture is called Zubits, and I really like these ones. They're magnetic closure, you can see on the far right. And so there's different levels of how strong the magnet is for whatever your needs are, but they are fairly easy to get on and off, and they hold really well. Another option obviously would be slip-on shoes, which take out the need for fine motor skills. And then there's other ones that have no closures, kind of elastic shoe laces that can be an option as well. So another thing to consider with dressing is positioning. And oftentimes the things we do in daily life are using energy that they don't need to necessarily be using. So for example, bending down to tie your shoelaces can be pretty challenging on your body, especially if you do it multiple times a day. And so we can save energy in certain positions, such as bringing your foot up over your knee, as this gentleman has done here. And then also when getting dressed, you can try getting dressed in a seated position in a chair or in bed, which can save a lot of energy and also can prevent falls. So trying to find the best way for you to do dressing in a position that's going to save energy for you. And then also we've got our power moves as an option to use when we still have the ability to do various activities for dressing, but we just need a little bit of help to get our hands kind of back on track. So we'll talk about those power moves in just a minute. So for successful morning with dressing, it's good to plan ahead by setting up clothes the night before, and also taking your medications prior to dressing so they have time to kick in. Positioning, like I mentioned, can help in terms of safety and allowing yourself enough time to get ready so that you're not rushed. Because when we start to get rushed, that's when we get more flustered and things become more challenging and are more likely to have a fall. Another thing that can be helpful is fast music. So I know those of you who are members of the Power Gym use fast music all the time, but it also can be helpful for things like dressing. And so that's something to consider. All right, so those of you at Power at the gym have probably used the hand flicks before, but basically to prepare to do a fine motor task like dressing or tying your shoes or playing a card game, you can use the Power hand flicks, which can help to do those big movements, and then fine motor skills become easier. So we can try it here together. You can see this gentleman bending down. He's got his hands out and he's doing those flicks. I've got a video for us on the next page to do them together. So let's say you're having trouble being able to tie your shoes or being able to put buttons on, hold your fork, something with fine motor skills, which involve your hands. One thing we know that can be helpful to prepare for that or in the middle of the activity if it starts to get harder is to do finger flicks. Okay, so finger flicks are going to look like this. You're going to make a fist with your hands and then powerfully and big, you're going to spread your fingers out all the way. So keeping your fingers spread out this way and also opening them up all the way, right? So close them into a fist and then powerfully open them up. So quick and strong. So you can do 5 to 10 of these in the middle of a task if it gets challenging, or like I said, before the task starts. So that's one. Another one that you can try is if it involves your whole arm and you're having a bigger issue and you feel like this isn't enough, is you can try doing bigger ones. So you can start here and make your elbows go straight and still flick your fingers out like this. Okay, so again, 5 to 10 of those. If you're having trouble with this motion, practicing that too, right? So quickly flipping your hands down, flipping them back up, down, back up, down, back up. Another one you can do is practice isolating each finger motion to your thumb. Okay, so we're not just squishing our fingers together, we're actually making a circle with the tips of our fingers, and we're coming powerfully back out. So quickly open and back, open, just one at a time. Do that on both sides and compare. Does one side look like it's easier than the other? Try and use your better side, if there is a better side, to then influence that other side and try and make it almost match if you can. One you can do is work on making your fingers go straight like a tabletop position like this. So quickly opening back up, just like that. Another one you can try is curling your fingers down so that you're making kind of like a small upright fist. So you're not curling here, you're just up here. So curling down and up, down, and up. Really focusing on that opening motion, which is usually what's more challenging for people. You can also do it with your thumb, kind of like you're grabbing something. And those are some good ones to get you started. There's lots of other things that we can do to work on those muscles of our hand and to work on that movement, but really focus on opening up big and powerful, and remember to incorporate it throughout your day. All right, oops. Okay. You got to try some of those. Again, all kinds of daily activities. Just remember those moves before when you get frustrated. And that goes along with handwriting, which is the next thing we're going to talk about. So a lot of times handwriting can be impacted in Parkinson's disease due to tremors, and usually we see smaller writing. So here we see micrographia, which is small writing. It's that plus a difference in the velocity, the fluency, and the acceleration of the way that you use your writing utensil. And that's what we call Parkinson's disease dysgraphia. So what do we do about it? So there's a variety of strategies that we can try. Building up the pencil or pen or writing utensil bigger is often helpful. When we have to hold something that's really small, it demands more control. And if we have something that's larger, it takes less effort. So this is an egg grip. You can get them again on Amazon or wherever you can find these things. And so this helps you to now be able to hold it with a larger grasp versus having to try and push down on something really small. So this is one option. Another option is there are these huge jumbo pens on Amazon. Again, they're not too expensive. They come in big packs like this, and they look a little bit ridiculous, but it's not hard to find them. That's a good thing. You can keep track of them easily. So anyway, it can be helpful for a larger option. And then this is one that's weighted. That's also from Amazon, and it's a large weighted pen. Some people find that weighted pens are helpful, and other people think that it makes it worse. So it's definitely worth trying. And a lot of times we'll try them here and see which one's most helpful, but this would be another one that you could find. And that's just a weighted large pen or a jumbo pen is the idea. So that is several different options. So another idea is to try writing on a vertical surface. And so a lot of times the way that we change our wrist when we write vertically can help to change the tremor. And so you either might try practice writing in the air. Sometimes just writing something really large in the air is helpful. Other times actually writing on your paper upright, against a wall, or there's these, you could use a binder. It would make a slanted surface, and that would help a little bit. So either this on actual paper or just even practicing it in the air really large. Again, changing position and really making sure that your feet are flat on the ground and you have a stable surface. So, we might think, why do my legs matter when I'm handwriting? But you want to have a solid foundation. And so if your legs are dangling from a bar chair, or if they're not flat on the ground, you can't reach or something, bring a stool to put your feet up, raise it up to your feet, or use a lower chair, that kind of thing. If you have an old phone book, you can put a phone book under your feet, but we really want a flat surface for your feet to be stable on. Another thing is shoulder support. So a lot of times people will find if their arm goes up, then their tremor gets worse. And so there's a lot of implications for that, but playing with what position is my shoulder in? And if I'm, instead of writing like this, can I write like this? And it's going to change your handwriting, and it's going to change the position, but playing with where you get, because this is where we get our trunk support from for our hand to write. So if we can get more support here, sometimes our handwriting is better. Another thing is lined paper. So we know power concepts are large, right? Think big. If you have lined paper, that has bigger lines, not college ruled, but maybe wide ruled or bigger, you have visual cues in terms of, I want to get all the way up to that top line and all the way down to that bottom line, right? Instead of just writing on paper without any cues for you. And so you can either print paper online, you can get varying for free. There's different size widths of the lines, or you can purchase it online, but that's a good way to practice. And on that note, practicing regularly. So just like anything else in terms of muscle memory and using it, you want to practice at least once a day if you can with handwriting, and it can be really helpful in improving that skill. All right, so activities of daily living. This is OT lingo for bathing, toileting, grooming, like shaving, doing your hair and makeup, brushing your teeth, and feeding yourself. So we'll see here a variety of utensil options for feeding yourself. Some people find weighted utensils to be helpful in managing tremors, and you can just Google weighted utensils or find that on Amazon. Other people find that they're not as helpful. So again, that's something that you can practice with here before you decided to purchase them, but they're not too expensive. So to try one and then you could see. Separately, built up handles, which you can see in the bottom right corner of this slide, those are often helpful as well, as they're easier to hold, just like we talked about with the pencil, right? So anything that's larger is going to be easier and you have more control over it. You can also build up your own utensils at home. So there are these things, these tubes. There's a handout that I don't know if Callie sent yet or if it will be available after, but it has a ton of links on it for all of these resources. So don't worry too much about scribbling them down in the names of things. But this one is called, I'm forgetting the name of it now, the Vive built up foam handles, and they have varying sizes in the middle of them. So basically you can use different things. So this one might be for a toothbrush versus something that's wider. And you just cut these to the width that you want them to be, the length that you want them to be. And so you could put this around your utensils, and they are dishwasher safe. So it's really nice and easy cleanup. And then another option is using just PVC or insulation tubing from like Home Depot. So, you know, they come in these long things and they're like less than $1. They're really, really cheap. And you just open them up and you can get smaller diameters than this and you can wrap it around an object, and then you can either duct tape it or whatever, but that's more of a kind of to my temporary or permanent, if you really tape it, solution compared to these ones, which are nice. So these are just more expensive, but they're not too bad. All right, so those are built up handles on utensils. And then on the top, you'll see smart utensils, which I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about these before. This one is the, which one is this? The liftware. Yeah, this is the liftware one. So it actually counteracts the tremor. And so, for example, soup, if you're having a tremor, it counteracts that, and so it keeps the soup from spilling. And it comes with a base, and then you buy the adapters for the fork and the spoon and the knife. But they're very expensive. It's about $200 for the start of it, and then you have to buy more attachments. So the ideal is to use flicks before your meal and throughout it as needed, and to not kind of depend on this. But there definitely is a role, and a lot of people really do appreciate these, especially for eating out at a restaurant or something. That can be helpful. So that's another option. And then taking breaks throughout your meal between bites a lot of times is helpful, because eating is a demanding fine motor task. All right, so bathing and toileting. You might find benefit from the use of a raised toilet seat, which is here on the right, with or without the frame with the handles on it. That requires less demand in sitting down and getting up when the surface is higher, as I'm sure you've noticed with higher chairs and lower chairs. So, and then the photo on the left is a tub bench, and that's an option for a tub shower combination, as the bench remains partially outside. So you can sit outside the tub, swing your legs in, and slide over. In a standalone shower, you would use a shower chair, which would be smaller. And so these are really good ways of saving energy throughout the day. Showers take a lot of our energy, and so sitting is an option and also can be helpful in preventing falls. All right, so instrumental activities of daily living are other things like driving, laundry, shopping, finances, cleaning, and home management kinds of things. So this is not ideal, this picture, obviously. This would make a therapist kind of shriek probably. So reducing clutter as much as possible. Anything that you could potentially trip or slip or fall on, we want to avoid. And then also look at the different heights of surfaces. And so think about for transferring from your chair to a bed or in the bathroom, for example, and if you can change the height at all, that can help make things easier. And then another thing is visual cues on the floor. So putting tape on the floor, for example, provides a visual cue for a path with the way you're going. And it also can minimize people putting furniture in the way of your path if they come over, or, clutter that could gather and narrow your pathway. So making sure you have clear paths throughout your home. Ergonomics, which is the science around efficiency in positioning, like setting up a desk workspace at the right height, or your chair to desk ratio kind of thing, right? Keeping your feet flat on the floor. Those are good things to consider around your house, and if you can adjust those at all. And then placing chairs around your house are helpful for taking breaks if you need to sit down. Just strategically, it doesn't have to be a folding chair every other step, but thinking through if you can arrange your house in a way that it's easy for you to be able to sit down and take a break if you need to. And on that note, we don't like rugs as therapists. They're really great opportunities for falls. So if you have to have a rug, getting those grippy non-slip cushions to go underneath, you can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's, are a really good idea. So they make sure they stay in place. Energy conservation is a fancy way of saying saving energy on things that you don't need to use it on, so you have more energy for other things that you want to use it on. So basically we can sum it up by work smarter, not harder, right? So efficiency in how you work. And in a study where they examined the most important goals for people with Parkinson's disease, 2 of the goals included reducing the effort and improving efficiency of cooking, and then also reducing the impact of fatigue on activities of daily living. So some strategies that help with this are sitting down when you can to do a task. So for example, cooking, sitting at the stove, or sitting while chopping vegetables. Minimizing bending over, and using ergonomic principles to work at your waist to chest height. So trying not to be reaching way up overhead with heavy things or bending down too low. Taking breaks. So we all know people who want to push through, they want to finish something, they don't want to stop, they want to do it in one sitting. Maybe that person is you. I know that it's definitely me sometimes. And you would think it takes the same amount of energy to do something if you do it all in one day versus if you spread it out. But the reality is that it takes more energy if you do it all in one day and you push yourself. Not only that, you often are hurting your back, or you start to get too tired and then you make mistakes, or you're more at risk of a fall. So it takes less energy to spread tasks out throughout the week. For example, cleaning your house, if you only cleaned one room each day, or if you did the dusting one day and the vacuuming a different day. But thinking about if you can take a hard thing and split it up into smaller bits. Whatever you do, don't overdo it, because that's when we get hurt or get tired, lose our balance, that kind of thing. So All right. So in the kitchen, ways that you might conserve energy is keeping frequently used items at waist level. So you might leave heavier things or commonly used items out um, on the countertop or on the stove. If you have a heavy pot, just leave it out on the stove. And then placing the lighter items on higher shelves to minimize the effort that you need to use. Using lighter pans overall requires less effort, and so does allowing your dishes to dry, to air dry in a rack. So instead of using the effort to dry them with a towel, just leaving them out and allowing them to air dry can save a lot of energy. Like I mentioned before, a chair in the kitchen can be really helpful for taking breaks and sitting. So that might include sitting at the stove and stirring something rather than standing still that whole time. It might also be that you go sit at your dining room table to chop vegetables instead of chopping them, in the kitchen. It might also be that you buy pre-cut vegetables, which can be really helpful, or frozen veggies, and just finding ways to save energy on things that you don't really need to use it on. To minimize the number of trips back and forth to your pantry or where you're getting your ingredients from, you want to retrieve all your ingredients at one time. So that way you have them all, you're saving energy, and then you can begin cooking. And then safety in the kitchen can include reminders with visual cues, such as placing bright colored stickers. Like you see this, you get colored tape at the bottom. You might put that on the off position on the stove. So the dials, it's really obvious that they're all on off, so you don't forget to turn the stove off. I actually have this in my house because it's really helpful. When you're across the kitchen, you can see they're all off. I don't have to go double check it again. Right, so in terms of sleep, I could talk about sleep all day. I love sleep and energy conservation, but it's a big deal. Getting good sleep is a really big deal. And so some pointers that I have, just simple things are definitely keeping a consistent routine. And a lot of times it's hard if you can't fall asleep or you're waking up really early in the morning. And so using other strategies to help you to get best quality sleep. So thinking about getting light during the daytime. Are you opening your blinds in your house? Are you going outside at all? Making sure you're letting sunlight in, because that's really how our bodies get on that circadian rhythm. And then conversely, making sure it's dark at night. So covering up any lights that are coming out of computer screens or TV, really trying to minimize anything that could stimulate your brain and make it think it's daytime. We can all be guilty of watching TV and falling asleep to the TV or being on the phone. And so really limiting that hour before bed, trying not to watch any TV or be on technology. So instead, you might, listen to a show or listen to a podcast, listen to music rather than watching it. And there's a variety of different things you could do, obviously reading, crossword puzzles, anything that's not technology before that hour before bed. And on that note, nothing stimulating. So ideally you're not reading, a mystery novel that's a page turner and you can't go to sleep because you're so into the book. So, and then limiting caffeine and alcohol, definitely not within 4 hours before bed if you're having trouble with sleep. Even if you can fall asleep, a lot of times it can wake you up in the middle of the night and doesn't allow you to get deep, restful sleep. And then belly breathing is something we'll do in a little bit, but abdominal breathing, where you're really focusing on extending your exhale. That's the part of the breathing that's a relaxation. So inhaling and then a long exhale can be really helpful in putting people to sleep. It's almost like magic. So it's a good thing to try, breathing in for 3 seconds and breathing out for 5, or whatever feels comfortable, but extending that exhale longer. Okay, so orthostatic hypotension, this is just a little side note because I specialize in these kinds of things in a variety of diagnoses. So one of the physical therapists asked me to include some information about how to help with this. So if you're having these symptoms of lightheadedness or dizziness due to low blood pressure with positional changes, sitting up, getting up too fast, bending over, those kinds of things, it might be orthostatic hypotension. There's lots of strategies that we can do to help, but a few of them here are getting up slowly. That seems kind of obvious, but if you get up fast, a lot of times the symptoms start. So the hard part is remembering to get up slowly because you don't realize it until after you've done it. So putting Post-it notes around your house, putting something on your chair so that when you touch the arms when you're about to get up, different ways that you can think to remind yourself to practice getting up slowly. And fluids are really important for orthostatic hypotension in terms of blood flow and making sure you have enough blood circulating through your body. Eating small meals rather than large meals can be really helpful. Our autonomic nervous system, or the automatic things your body does, so breathing, your heart rate, digestion, those are all your autonomic nervous system. And if you eat too much in one sitting, your body has trouble digesting it. It's a lot of work for one, and also it can trigger some more of these symptoms. So trying to eat smaller, frequent meals throughout the day. Breathing is helpful for blood flow. And so similar to getting up slowly or drinking fluids, breathing, like taking 3 to 5 good deep breaths before you stand up, can help to kickstart that blood flowing. And now when I stand up, it's not as dramatic. I didn't go from just sitting and just staying still to boom, I'm up. If I can do some deep breaths, it'll get my blood flowing. Also using assistive devices as needed. And then the last thing is some physical exercise that we can do to help with orthostatic hypotension. So when you're standing, you can work on squeezing your leg muscles or your buttocks muscles, just squeezing against your own resistance. Another thing is crossing your leg over the other one at your thigh and just squeezing your thighs together there. And that can help to keep that blood flowing and prevent that idea of the blood pressure changes. You can also try standing with one leg on a safe supported surface, so a chair or something, but allowing your body to have the one leg, that muscle working on the one leg while the other one is a little higher, so it's not as hard on your body. And then the last one is squatting down. So worst case, if you do start to feel these symptoms of lightheadedness or dizziness, definitely try and get down to the floor if you feel like it's going to get worse. The last thing we want is for you to be up high and to fall from that. So squatting down typically helps to solve that problem. All right, so in terms of breathing, I've talked about it a few times already. It's one of my favorite things for a lot of things. And so we're going to try it here today. So what we want is you can inhale and exhale through your nose. You don't have to exhale through your mouth. This is just relaxation breathing. But when you breathe in, I want you to breathe into your stomach so that you're filling up your stomach like a balloon, rather than breathing into my chest and my chest rising and falling. So what I want you to try is putting one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach, and just thinking about breathing into your stomach. It's not easy and it takes time. Don't get frustrated, but just thinking about breathing into your belly. You might notice your chest rising a little bit, and that's fine too. If we take a good deep breath, we're going to breathe into our sides and our back and our chest too. But we want to focus on it starting from our stomach. So our diaphragm can come down and we can take a really nice deep breath. I don't want you to get lightheaded, so we're going to stop here, but it's a really good thing to practice. If you feel lightheaded, don't take as deep of a breath. Okay, the goal isn't that they're really huge deep breaths. It's more that it's a consistent breath and that it's coming from your stomach. So keep practicing with that. It's a really, really helpful thing, and you can get a lot better at it quickly if you practice. All right, another area is cognition. That's thinking skills, so attention, memory, and processing kinds of things. All right, so the first thing is to limit or avoid multitasking. So you might have heard before that multitasking isn't really a thing, and that's true. Maybe you haven't heard that, but our bodies are not able to do two things at once. What we're doing is our brain is switching really quickly between two things. So if I am watching TV and I'm talking to someone, I'm not doing both at once. I'm either paying attention to the TV or I'm paying attention to that person. And so although we can sometimes do that well, it's really hard. It's demanding on our body. It's cognitively fatiguing, and it's usually not the best quality of either thing. Your conversation is not going to be great, and watching the TV is not going to be great either. So really try to focus on one thing at a time. And these strategies are things that are helpful for everybody, not just people with Parkinson's. So we can all use our brains better by using these kind of tricks. Also using cues and reminders like calendars, alarms, apps on our phones or computers can all be really helpful as backup if we forget something. And mindfulness, so doing the breathing that we just did, I consider that mindfulness, focusing on your body. You know, it doesn't have to be as this deep, really intense kind of activity. Just doing basic breathing is being mindful. And studies have shown benefit of your cognition or your thinking skills through using mindfulness, which includes that breathing. So another benefit of breathing. And mental rehearsal or visualization are tools to practice. And what that means is you're picturing yourself going through a task or doing something beforehand, and you picture yourself doing it the correct way, and then remembering and focusing whatever it is that you need to prepare for. So let's say I'm in the shower and I remember I need to go buy milk. Okay, I'm going to picture myself getting out of the shower, going downstairs, and writing on my to-do list, buy milk or something like that. Or even picturing yourself going to the grocery store. And what it's doing is it's putting it in your mind. You're going to do this. It's helping with your memory and kind of programming it into your brain. Another thing similar like that is internal dialogue. So that can be talking to yourself while you're doing a task. So maybe it's something that, you start to have a tremor or you have trouble figuring out how to make this happen and you kind of freeze up. Can you say to yourself, let's say I was going to get dressed. I'm going to take off my shirt. I'm going to, if you're handwriting, I'm going to write the letter E, whatever it is, but saying it out loud and really making it into something more than just the physical action. Sometimes that can be helpful. And finally, a positive attitude can have a big impact on our performance, even if you have to fake it. So even if you're frustrated, really try and convince yourself, I'm going to have a positive attitude about this and I'm going to get through it. All right, so medication management. A lot of times it can be hard there's a lot of medications sometimes that go with Parkinson's, and it can be complicated. So it requires a lot of thinking skills, including keeping track of your prescriptions, sorting your pills, and of course, remembering to take them every day, sometimes twice or 3 times a day. So some considerations include locating where your pills are stored. So keeping them in the same place all the time, maintaining that consistency. Strategically place them where you'll remember to take them. So if the first thing you do in the morning is eat breakfast or you get out of bed, do you put them on your nightstand? Do you put them in the kitchen, somewhere that you will remember? Typically, it's best to have everything in the same place right there. If you have daytime and nighttime pills, you might want to get a bi-daily pill case so that they're all in the same place. And medication lists are helpful for communicating with healthcare providers and your pharmacist, and also just your own remembering, why do I take this pill? What's it for? Is this still a pill that I'm taking, or do we stop this one? And it should include the drug dosage, the frequency, the provider that's prescribing it, and also the purpose. On the handout that they will send out if you don't have it already is a name of an app that can be really helpful called MediQ. MEDI-Q, or no, I'm sorry, that one's a pill box. The app is MediSafe, so MEDI safe, and it's an awesome app. It allows caregivers to know if you've taken your medication, so it gives you a reminder, and then if you've taken it, you say, I took it. It alerts a caregiver if you haven't taken it, within a couple hours, and can be just a nice, easy place to keep everything on your phone. And then other reminders can be, alarm clocks, calendar reminders, vibrating alarms on a watch, a timer in your house, checklists, I took my pills, check, or specialty pill containers that have audible reminders. So that's that one MediQ or MedQ. In that reference sheet, it's a digital pill box, and it talks to you. There's several different kinds like that, but that's just one of them. Keeping a consistent routine, like pairing your pills with breakfast or meal times, can be really helpful. It can jog your memory. Anytime we pair something with an activity, that can be helpful. And then in order to remember if you took your pills, the pill boxes, again, can be helpful. If they're not in there, then hopefully you took them. Or you can keep notes using a paper checklist or something in your phone, something like that, to keep track of your doses. And then lastly, there are pharmacies that can help with sorting and delivery of medication. So especially now with COVID, if you don't want to go out to your pharmacy, or if you're having trouble managing it, there are two different, there's PillPack and there's Phil, PHIL. So those are two options for online pharmacies that can be really helpful and save time and energy and can be safer. So OTs also look at productivity, which can be paid employment or volunteerism, something that provides productivity in your life. This is really an individualized piece, but I just wanted to make sure that you all knew this is something OTs do. So if you're having trouble with either of those, seeing an occupational therapist could be helpful. And then similarly, leisure activities. So activities to pass the time, cooking if you enjoy doing that, golfing, knitting, sewing, any of those kinds of activities that you enjoy doing, hobbies. I also provided this to Callie, so she'll get this to you, but I didn't make this list. I just really like it. It's called the Pleasant Activities List Pandemic Edition, and it's 3 pages long and just tons and tons of ideas of activities that you can do during COVID. Some of these won't apply. They're not necessarily for Parkinson's populations, but there's a lot of really, really great ideas on here. And so if you're having trouble thinking, what can I do? What should I do with my time? Hobbies are really important. And so it's a great list to kind of go through and get some ideas that maybe you haven't done in a while or you've never tried before. And quality of life and psychological well-being. So one overarching goal of occupational therapy is not only to improve physical health, but your overall well-being and quality of life through participation in valued activities. So this often includes your care partners. And I love this quote here about care partners and how important you are as part of the process. So that is a part of occupational therapy typically. So some forms of care partner interventions might be helping with instruction in different ways to support, your loved one on a task, how much to get involved, how much do I say, not to say a ton of things, but to give a one-word cue, or what things should we encourage people to do on their own versus step in and help with. And then what's the appropriate level of support for that without taking over. We also look at environmental modifications like adding grab bars, different changes to the home like we discussed earlier. If you do get a grab bar, please do not get suction cup grab bars. They sell them and they're very scary. So as much as possible, get real grab bars that go in to the wall and have anchors, have a contractor install them so you can be sure they're safe. And then mindfulness. So we heard it was good for cognitive function, but it's also good for everyone's well-being. And so both, care partner mindfulness and then also the individual receiving occupational therapy services. So on that note about mindfulness, let's try something together. So one of my favorite, really simple mindfulness activities is to just use your hand. That's all you need, and your other hand to trace your fingers. So you're going to hold one hand outstretched with your palm facing away from you. You can also put it in your lap if it's more comfortable to relax it there. And first, just practice the motion of tracing your fingers up and down along your hand. Now, I want you to return to the base of your thumb and begin tracing again, but this time we're going to focus on your breathing. So you're going to breathe in as you slide your finger up and breathe out as you slide your finger down. Really relaxed breathing. Breathe only as deep as you're comfortable, and you get to control the speed. So you get to control how deep and how long you're breathing for. So up is an inhale, down on your exhale, up on the inhale, down on the exhale. So this is called take 5 breathing. After you're done, you can decide, do I need to take 5 more or am I good? So at that moment, you might decide to come back to your thumb. Otherwise, you can go backwards this way. But it gives you some real tangible, some sensation in your hands to focus on your breath, and also a visual cue going up and down. So that's a really simple, easy one that I like to do. All right, so that is all I have for us. And this is my contact information if you need anything. Unfortunately, our emails are currently blocked from anyone outside of TMC because everyone is trying to hack into the hospital so bad. So I can't get any emails from you right now, but hopefully in a couple months or at some point they'll let us do that again. Again, I work at TMC Outpatient Therapy, which is right across the street from the emergency department at TMC. And there's our phone number and our fax. If you would like to get OT services, you just need to talk to your primary care or whatever provider you'd like, and they will send a referral to TMC. We take most insurances, and we offer OT, PT, speech, and nutrition.